Hi, friends. My name is Cyndi, and I'm a storyteller, kind of like you're about to be. I've told stories on stages and in classrooms and even on the radio through a project called StoryCorps. I think you've heard of StoryCorps. It's a big collection of real people's real stories, and anyone can record one. You asked me what made me decide to do StoryCorps. Well, to start with, I love stories, telling them and listening to them. Every time I talk to someone and really listen, I learn something new about them and about myself. My dad was a storyteller too. Every time we took a long car ride together, he would tell stories about his family, our family. One day I told my husband, his name is Jude, how I wished I could save all these stories in a box so I could remember them forever. Jude is a very good listener, and he decided right then and there that he would sign me up to do StoryCorps with my dad. Jude came with us that day and he took some pictures. One of them is right behind me. My dad and I laughed and laughed that day. We even cried just a little. That day was so special. I will never, ever forget it. You also asked, how did I learn about it? That's easy. I heard it on the radio. And when Jude decided to make an appointment for me and my dad, he just looked it up online. He just typed StoryCorps. The coolest part, you don't have to be famous or have a perfect story. You just have to be curious. StoryCorps is all about listening with your heart. Somebody asked whether I was nervous about asking questions. Oh, yeah, a little bit. Because it can feel weird at first pointing a microphone at someone you love and say, "Tell me all about your life." But here's what helped. I remembered that it's not about asking the perfect question, it's about wanting, really wanting to know the answer. When you care, people can feel it, and that makes the nervous part go away. You also wondered, how did I choose what I wanted to know, what questions to ask? That is actually a great question. I started by thinking about what I didn't already know. Like, what was my dad's favorite game when he was a kid? Or when did my dad first realize how much he loves music? I also thought back to some of the stories he had already told me. Stories I love so much, I wanted to hear them again and again. I started with an open ended question. Wait, I'm going to pause. Did you see that long pause right there? That's because I had a little hiccup because I got nervous. But I'm just going to keep plowing through because I know that you guys will be there to support me. All right. So I started by thinking about questions that I wanted to ask my dad. And I started by thinking about some of the stories that he had already told me, stories that I wanted to hear again and again. So, one of the things that I knew about storytelling is that it's important to start with an open ended question. Ask your teachers what I mean by that. So, this is what I started with. I said, "Dad, tell me what it was like growing up on a farm in Oklahoma." And the story just grew from there. You don't need a long list of questions. You just need to start with something you're really curious about. Remember, it makes a big difference when you really care about the answer. And yes, I did learn new things about my dad. I learned how my dad never really had toys when he was a kid. His family was very poor, and there were 11 kids. He didn't even have a bicycle until he was older than you guys. The story he told me about learning how to ride a bike made me laugh out loud. But it also made me a little sad thinking about my dad growing up without any toys to play with. See, that's the thing about stories. They can make you feel so many different things all at the same time. This reminds me that everyone has stories that we've never heard before, even people we see every day. Now, I heard that you are about to do your own interviews over Thanksgiving. That is so cool. But I know that some of you may be nervous. So I'm going to tell you a little secret. Everybody gets nervous. Everyone. Heck, I'm nervous right now just talking to you. You saw how I stumbled over my words. But remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be curious and care. Here are a couple of tips that might help. First of all, start with someone you know, a parent, a grandparent, a friend, or a neighbor. Second, ask questions that make them remember something. Like, what's your favorite holiday memory? Or what was your favorite game as a kid? And why? The third one is important. Listen more than you talk. Because when you really listen, people open up. And finally, have fun. You are collecting a piece of history, your own family's history. Storytelling is how we share who we are, and every story matters, especially yours. So grab that recorder and take a deep breath and let someone you love tell their story. You got this.